Welcome to the Smart Performance Coaching Podcast. We're joined today by Ed Collins, swim coach Jedi, and a very good friend of Smart Performance Coaching.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to hearing all about swim techniques, Ed's story himself, and just everything about swimming totally.
Got the wrong way round, like, but sorry.
We should have again.
No, you're right.
That's going to go down, thanks. Golly, Ed, welcome to Smart Performance Coaching Podcast. Great to have you here. I've known you quite a few years.
Yeah.
But for those that don't know who Ed Collins is, just give us a little introduction, who he is, what he does, where he's from, etc.
Well, firstly, thanks, Darren and Alex. And I'm a podcast virgin. I listen to a lot of them every week, but I'm now at the other side, and it's going to be. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Cool. Well, Ed Collins. Do you know? I was only thinking before we came to the coming here that it's 45 years, almost to the month, that I started coaching or instructing people or helping people. So I've had quite a few years at it. Ed Collins. I've done quite a few things in my life. I guess I started leaving school in the early 80s. I was destined for the military, but unfortunately I failed my medical on hearing. And in those days, the Falkland Islands War had just ended, and a lot of the soldiers were coming back with high frequency hearing problems, and that's what I had. And actually, it's a genetic thing that runs in my family. So I was a bit stuck. I was brought up in Herefordshire on a farm, and before going to what was I was going to go to the Sandhurst officer training, and I went and spent about 4 months in an outdoor centre up in the northwest of Scotland, and basically just to get me training as a potential officer. The person who ran the outdoor centre was ex-military. His claim to fame, I suppose, he and another soldier, they rowed the Atlantic, the first people to row the Atlantic. Nice. And I guess I went there and I absolutely loved it. I went to my medical, failed, and my world fell apart, because that's all I ever wanted to do from the age of about 13. So I rang John up, and I went to John and I said, John, I failed my medical to get into the military. And he goes, bloody hell. He said, you don't want to go back to Herefordshire to that bloody farm. He said, you'll be stuck there. And he said, you were good as a young instructor with me. He said, why don't you think about going into outdoor education? And so I spent certainly from my late teens through until my mid to late 20s instructing in outdoor education. That started off in sort of working in outdoor centres in this country. I then concentrated on sailing. And then got involved with an expedition called, it was called Operation Rally in those days, but which is now called Rally International, and I worked with them for a bit. So I actually didn't come back to the family farm in Herefordshire until I was about 30, and I set up a sheep flock on the family farm, and I've basically been a farming in Herefordshire, sheep farming in Herefordshire, but also have always been involved with instructing or coaching on some level. Latterly, when I first moved back to Herefordshire, it was sailing, and then I got into triathlon in about 2010, and it was because I suddenly realised I couldn't farm in Herefordshire, a landlocked county, and pursue sailing because we're too far from the coast. So a friend of mine who is a triathlete suddenly said to me, he said, Ed, you can swim and you can run in a sort of fashion. He said, have you ever thought about triathlon? And that's when I started. I started triathlon and multi-sport then. He was also a coach of a junior club, and his children was just about to leave the club. And he said to me, he said, well, you've been coaching and instructing for many years. Have you ever thought about, coaching triathlon? And he said, I want to leave. My kids have left this club. Would you like to coach? And my two daughters at that stage were very keen. And so, so then that's my coaching journey of triathlon started. Wow. And so, here I am. In 45 years later, I was head coach of that club for about 10 years, and I sort of branched off and I sort of concentrated on multi-sport coaching, but on a very small scale with a few one-to-ones. But I sort of, because my love of the water and swimming, I started concentrating on swim coaching, and especially for open water swimmers and endurance swimmers. And I've sort of, from the last 5 years, I've been sort of concentrating, certainly at home, sort of doing, the sheep numbers have got less, but my, the people coming to be coached for swimming and multi-sport has sort of grown. So that's what's happened.
Collins in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So then take us a bit back to the your kind of the swimming that you've done, because I know you've done some crazy distance swimming in your time. And what's the longest swimming that you've done?
The longest I've done at the moment is just over, I think it's 10 or 12k. It was a lovely. It was a swim in Greece. Ultra. There's a company that does these sort of. They call themselves Ultra 33.3 swimming, and I know the person who set the company up, and he messaged me one day because he knows that I don't particularly like cold water, and I said, look, if you ever have an event in a warm water where I don't have to go and swim in a wetsuit, and he contacted me and he said, look, we're doing this swim event hopefully in a little island called Skolopolis, which is the Mamma Mia island. And being a father of two daughters, I know that film back of my hand, and we watch it at least 3 times a year. And so I was in there, and part of this this company, you swim for 4 days, 33.3k over the 4 days, and one of those days is a marathon swim, and which is usually between over 10k. Wow. Between 10 and 12k. So I swum there. I go to there's an open water swim festival in Mallorca. Actually, it's coming up in the next at the end of May. And they have a week of swimming there, open water, and they have a 10k race there. And I've sort of got to the age now that I'm sort of looking at different areas. We went to Barbados last year to swim in a swim festival. And they had a 10k event there. There's one which I'm looking at the moment in St. Croix in US Virgin Islands, which for this winter, and that's it's only a 5 mile. However, it's
he talks like me for swimming. When I do running, he talks like me for swimming.
Like he'll say, 80 miles running, not a problem. Talk about 5 miles swimming, no problem. Like,
I've always been a plodder. I'm not really very quick, but I have that sort of mindset that I get into a rhythm, and I think you guys all know that, especially doing long distance, and you get into that rhythm, don't you? And you can do, and a lot of it's mindset as well. But the thing that affects me when I'm doing any form of this multi-sport is I need, certainly swimming, if you start getting cold, and this is why I love swimming in warmer waters, because yeah, you know, you never get cold. And I quite like the adventure of being, especially this one I'm looking at, it's you're swimming from one island to another. So you're swimming across a strait, and then you're swimming along the coast. So, you know, it's loads of things to look at.
Yeah, beautiful.
Funny enough, there's one really good, one of the nicest swims I've done in this country, and sadly it's not often, I don't know whether it's still going. It was called the Caldy Tenby swim, and it's where, and a lot of us in Herefordshire, we all know Tenby, and it's a great swim. It's swim, you get ferried out to the Caldy Island, and you swim back.
All right.
And it's only a couple of miles. However, you do feel really exposed because you've got the currents in that channel there. So they literally tell you when you start off on Caldy Island that you are swimming in the opposite direction to Tenby. And then the lifeboat will come and tell you after about half an hour, 40 minutes, okay, you can turn around now. And you literally turn around and you just get swept by the current right the way back to the to North Beach and finish. But yeah, so you don't have to go around the world. Some of these, there are loads of swims. You know, in this country as well, in the UK, you just need to wear a wetsuit unless you're tough.
Yeah. Ed, you talked about you being a bit of a plodder there. I guess maybe debunking a myth of with swimming itself. I think a lot of people try and go quite hard when they're swimming, and you know, the faster that they stroke, the faster they're going to be swimming. And I most certainly knew that when I came back into swimming. How does that play into technique? And equally, like you say, you're being a plodder, but you're getting the technique right, from what I understand.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I have most people that come to the endless pool, they're usually adults that have come from a non-swimming background. The most important thing with swimming is that you've got to get yourself horizontal in the water. If you're horizontal in the water, you'll be able to move through it far easier. If you have what we term sinky legs, you get in the water and all you feel is your legs sink down to the bottom, then you're going to find it incredibly difficult and tiring to swim because you're basically dragging an anchor behind you. So I often say to people, you've just got to, and it takes time. It's a bit like, I often say, it's a bit like people who are wanting to, and going back to running now, is, you know, the whole running on heart rate, and you've got to try and get your heart rate down. And by doing that, getting a nice, good aerobic heart rate, it takes time, and you've got to, it takes a long time and a lot of easy running with some faster stuff. It's like swimming. You can't just get into the pool and just suddenly think you've got to swim. You've got to get that body position in the water right. And that means you've got to just try and think. For a start, be relaxed. And so many people that swim are just tense up. They tense up and they also get angry. And when you tense up and get angry, the only person that's going to win is the water. And I have people in the endless pool. I call them the alpha males. They come in. They're usually, I don't want to start stereotyping people, but they're quite often, they've often, you know, have been very good at a sport, whether it's rugby, or they go good skiers, good runners, and they naturally find that whatever sport they do, they pick it up quite quick. They come to swim, and they're also successful business people usually, and or successful in whatever work they do, and they come to the endless pool, and you can see they're getting more and more angry. And sometimes I have to say to them, look, guys, just you've just got to calm down a bit, you know. And I think, and we've all heard it, especially us coaches with multisport, you know, how people hate swimming because they get so angry with it. Because it is technique, so technique based, but you've got to get those basics right, and people aren't prepared to spend time getting the basics right. And the basics is get yourself horizontal. And once you're horizontal in the water, then you can start working on the rest of it, like the hand entry catch pull, to get you through the water. But if your legs are dragging below, you're on a hiding to nothing from the start.
I think what we're saying there is probably it's skill first and then speed later. Almost, and
not strength. As you know, we go into swimming pools, and and you get an little 8-year-old girl who weighs, God knows, kilos less than you, and she just flies past you, and that's purely technique.
Absolutely. So with that then, you talked about kind of drag and propulsion and that kind of stuff. So I've always thought that they kind of break down, swimming's kind of to categorise then. So we've got the catch, we've got the pull, we've got the legs, we've got the arms, we've got all this stuff, and it's taught in parts like that. So how do you teach it? Do you break it down even more? So I kind of look at it that I want to reduce drag, like you said. That's got to be one of the most important things. Reduce drag, create propulsion, and reduce fatigue, I suppose. Yeah. And everything else kind of falls into those brackets almost. Do you agree with that?
I do. I'm part of I suppose we could go back a little bit. I'm part of I went through a sort of a program, a coaching program with a company called Swim Smooth, and they specialise really in open water swimming, and so therefore triathletes and endurance swimmers, and our philosophy is that we coach the swimmer and not the stroke. So everyone that comes to me is different, and and so I look at them first of all. Now, most swimmers, and I've had a couple last week who have come to me and have sort of said, "Oh, we've been watching Instagram reels, and we're trying to get this, and we're finding it really difficult." Well, they're watching these ex-elite swimmers who are posting some really good content. Some of them, there's some really good content online, but these swimmers have not got the mobility. So we've got to. I think we have this problem as coaches, as swim coaches, not only swim coaches, but all multi-sport coaches who have. We've got this internet now. And social media with some really good content being put on there, but actually, for us plodders, the majority of us as plodders, and amateurs, we just don't have the mobility to be able to do what these other guys are doing. So I find we have a sort of a hierarchy of needs, or I have a sort of a hierarchy of needs with swimming. So when a swimmer comes to me, I will say, right then, we need to get your alignment in the water right first.
Which reduces drag.
Yeah. So you can't if you haven't got that right, you can't really build on it. After you got the body alignment right, then we're sort of, and that comes with breathing and head position and things like that, and being and not lifting your head and having a good breathing pattern. Once that's been sorted, then we can start working on the hand entry, the catch, and then of course you've got to bring in rotation because of rhythm and timing. Swimming is so much as swimming is about rhythm and timing. So we start. I have this sort of hierarchy of needs, and at the very top is when we start bringing it all together. With the we start bringing the kick in, because that's what most people do. They get the front right, and then I suddenly say to them, right, and they say, well, I don't really know what my back end is doing, and that's when we got to start. And hopefully through this process, they will start to become mindful of what their legs are doing, and and not using your legs for huge amount of propulsion. Certainly in endurance swimming and triathlon, is because you want to you use more energy by kicking than you do by the front end of your stroke. And what you need in triathlon is to get out of the water with enough. Still with less fatigue in your legs for the bike and the run.
Absolutely.
I hope that answers it.
Absolutely does. One of my favourite sayings is that water responds to physics, not the intent of the swimmer. Because water doesn't forget, it doesn't change. No. The swimmer changes. So, like I said, if we don't reduce the drag, create the useful propulsion, then the swimmer is just going to be horizontal through the water.
And water is so dense, and certainly with the hand entry, people that go in, and this is another common myth, is where people they want to glide. Now there's this, and they talk. They enter the water and they see on the videos these elite swimmers. They enter the water and they're sort of and they stretch their hands forward and they're sort of gliding like that. Well, it's incredibly difficult when you enter the water like that and you have not got good shoulder mobility to be able to actually engage the catch. And what you do is you just press down in the water and slow down.
Yeah.
So you sort of got to say to people, you've got to work with the dense water, and therefore, as of course, when you enter with your hand, you've got to have that slight little angle on the wrist in order to grab the water, and then sort of as you extend forward, you're on a sort of a downward trajectory rather than on a flat trajectory across the surface of the water.
Yeah. Just going back to, and it sounds silly, but you said about obviously the water doesn't change, but you've spoken about coaching people for outdoor swimming more than the pool swimming.
Yeah.
I think the videos that you referenced there normally are in, controlled environments in swimming pools.
Yeah.
So what sort of tips are you giving swimmers that are going from a pool environment where at most you've got a little way from the person next to you
Yeah.
versus when you're going into an outdoor environment? And hey, we can get calm seas, but we can also get some rougher seas. What are you telling them differently when they're going outdoors?
Right. Well, for a start,
Watch the jellyfish.
Jellyfish or sharks if you're going. No, the most important thing and the thing that people find really weird is that they swim in the controlled environment of a pool, clear water. You can see the black mark along the bottom.
Yeah.
You can see the end. You go into a lake or the sea and you can't see anything.
No.
And the exposure freaks some people out. They can't see the bottom. It also means, so you've got to, that is one main thing. Their environment's totally changed. I think the other thing is that they've got to be proficient at being able to sight. You've got to be able to see where you're going. So it's a slightly different technique, open water swimming than there is to pool swimming. Pool swimming is very much, you're keeping your head as still as possible in the water, and you're just turning it into the side to breathe.
Sure.
However, in open water, you have got to lift that head slightly in order to look where you're going. Mm-hmm. And actually, that's a bit of an art, because if you've got the sun coming straight into your eyes, you got to, or it's raining, or it's windy, and you've got spin drift hitting your goggles all the time. As soon as you lift your head up, your legs sink. So you've got to be able to do that really quickly, get your head back in the water and try and lift your legs back up so you're still horizontal. So I try and get people to bilaterally breathe, or to be comfortable breathing either side, so that when they get into an open water environment, for instance, if your favoured side is breathing to your right-hand side, and you go and you're doing a race or you're swimming somewhere, and the wind is coming from the right-hand side and the waves are, you're going to have a hell of a race. So even if you can just try and breathe every so often, the other side is better.
Sure,
I'm going to give a reference back to that and keep referring to Tenby all the time, don't we? But they've changed the way the route is, and when you're going towards the lifeboat station, the waves obviously coming on your left-hand side. Well, if you're breathing that way all the time, every single breath, you're going to get a mouthful. So that's where you do need to change and be able to...
You're right. I was at a triathlon years ago at Aberfeldy on Loch Tay, and it was a gale blowing down that loch. And I can always remember it. There were these people that could only breathe to the left. And honestly, they were completely, there was people being pulled out all the time. The other thing is, if you only breathe to the right and you've got an anti-clockwise course, so you've got the anti-clockwise course there, you can only breathe that way. When you breathe that way, you naturally veer off towards the right. Yeah. So therefore, you're going to be swimming longer swimming further. Breathing's breathing and sighting, and your stroke rate has to change slightly as well. If you go and watch videos of the elite open water swimmers, they've got a much sort of straighter arm, what we call a straighter arm recovery. that means that there is more the classic sort of high elbow with the hand underneath the elbow coming through in pool swimming, which you see in all these YouTube videos, is pretty useless in open water if you've got a chop, because every time your hand comes out, your hand's going to be knocked by the chop.
Oh, yeah.
So if you've got a slightly wider arm, it means you've got more room between.
So on that then, why even teach the high elbow recovery in pool swimming? And why don't we just teach that and just program that in our swimming?
I'm afraid I do that with I've had such success with people, adults, in the endless pool, where I say to them, not only this high elbow with the arm, you do need to have mobility in your shoulders.
Yeah.
You've got to have good rotation. And quite often people almost over-rotate to try and do that. And I just get them to just say, look, you're not going to win the prettiest swimmer award, but it's very effective.
Yeah.
There's a lady from Hawaii who's she's an open water swim coach, and she tells her clients, her swimmers, she said, look, think about being on a surfboard, okay? These surfers in Hawaii, they lie on their board and they have very quick action strokes, okay, going out. And she said, that's what an open water swimmer should be. And she's gone from one extreme to another, but actually it is very similar. You've got to have a high turnover, because if you've got choppy conditions and windy conditions, you don't want your hand out of the water for too long. It needs to be out, in, grab the water, pull through and out again. So the whole open water technique is slightly different. It's slightly wider armed. It's a higher turnover.
Yeah.
But if you look at open water swimmers, elite open water swimmers and elite pool swimmers, they look very different from above the ground. Rebecca Adlington, for instance, a pool swimmer, looks beautiful when she's swimming. She looks so rhythmical and smooth when she's swimming. There's another lady who's an Australian open water swimmer, was the best in her day, better than all the men as well. You look at her swimming, she looks really scrappy. However, when the hand enters that water and what they do under the water is absolutely identical.
Sure.
They grab the water, they're using their hand and their forearm as paddles, and they're pushing water or swimming past their arm, and their arm goes under their shoulder, and that is absolutely the same.
Sure.
What they do out of the water is, and so when I coach people in the endless pool, I say to them, don't worry how you look out of the water. It's what when your arms are out of the water. I say it's what happens actually when your hands are in the water.
So for anybody listening to this, then we are saying to them, if you are going to do open water swimming, triathlon in open water, then it is best just to practice that in the pool anyway.
Yeah. I just
hit a few.
No, I tell you exactly. I caveat you there because I can't swim in. I have gotten myself into all sorts of problems in a pool which has got double, two people, two double rows in one lane. If you understand what I mean. And I call myself swim smooth. We call the swim type is a bit like a swinger, where you swing your arms around. Well, of course, I'm forever hitting people, so you just got to be careful.
Do it with caution.
Yeah, do it with caution.
I'd say at Homer Park and the swim etiquette there. You talk about having to look up every now and then. I have to do that at Homer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to pull back a little bit to the breathing. It wouldn't even strike me to just breathe one side. Where do people learn that? Because for me, it's like, again, maybe everyone doesn't learn in school, but from school, when you go and get your badges, it's every 3 breaths, one side, next side. But do people generally just go one side?
Oh, yes.
I just couldn't
in my
imagine
experience, a lot. Do you know, I always used to breathe every 3. I find breathing every 4. I'm sort of grabbing for air and breathing for 5. I mean, I can breathe every 4 and every 5. Usually in an open water, if I'm swimming, let's say a 10K, and you're in the water for 3 hours or whatever, 5 to 10K, so you're in for anything from 2 to 3 hours. I usually go from a 3, and then if I'm needing to just up the pace a little bit, then I breathe every 2, but I breathe every 2 every 10 times, or for 5 minutes one side, breathe every 5 minutes the
so
other
swap it
side,
over, yeah.
because then you can get oxygen. If you're wanting, and breathing every 2 is really good. It's a bit like you're coming across a group of people and you want to pass them, so you want to increase your pace a bit. It means, and with swimming, you have got to get good oxygen. It's like anything. If you don't get good oxygen into your body, your arms and legs aren't going to respond. So you really do need to have a mixture of breathing every 2 and every 3. Yeah.
Yeah, so
they
it's
all
good
have
thing
a
to
place.
practice. Have it in your locker,
Absolutely,
ready to use when you do need to use it. Yeah, brilliant. Moving on to video, Ed. I know you're a massive fan of video and people. Swimsuit, again, massive on that. So how do you utilise that, and where do you put that into your coaching practices? Right,
yeah. I mean, I absolutely love video analysis. A lot of people are visual learners. You can go to a pool and you're standing poolside and you are above the swimmer. You really can't see what's happening. You can see what's happening above water. With the refraction of the water, it's very difficult to get an absolute to know exactly what's happening below. So with the endless pool, you are standing literally at the same level as a swimmer. And then using GoPros or whatever, there are all sorts of different cameras, you can get video image from the side, from the front, from the back. The swim smooth sort of practice, or any sort of, but the practice we use is the fact that swimmers will come in and we will video them. Then we'll take them out and we'll then show them the video on the big screen, and slow the video down. And quite often, little things, especially with elite swimmers or good swim club swimmers, when you actually look at them in the water, you're thinking, Christ alive, I can't see anything wrong. And actually, I was in Mallorca once, and there was a German elite swimmer. I think he was he second or something? Was he a silver medalist? Certainly right at the top of his game. And he came to Paul Newsome, who's the head coach of Swim Smooth, and I was there with him. And he said, "Oh, Paul, can you look at my stroke?" And Paul turned to me and he said, "Oh, this would be a good one for you, Ed. Tell me what he's doing wrong."
Of course.
And I looked at him and I said, "Paul, he looks, I can't see anything." I said, "He looks perfect to me." And he said, "Yeah, no, you're right." But he said, "Let's go back and have a look at the video." And he was just doing just this tiny little bit of a twist of one hand as he was coming into the water. Do you know that he knew exactly what he was doing? Because he said to Paul, he said, "Look, I have this." He said, "I'm sure there's a problem with my right hand on hand entry," but he said, "I can't quite see it. I can't." He said, I know there's a problem, but I don't know there's a problem." And we looked at it we looked at the video in normal speed, and we couldn't really see anything. We then suddenly started to slow the video down, and you could just see it. It was very like, and I call swim analysis a bit like a bike fit, especially with those good swimmers. You literally just have to do a little bit of a tweak, and suddenly they feel much easier. And he did. He saw it. He went, "Oh my God, that's what's happening." He got back into the pool, and he suddenly said, "Yeah, I can just feel it. I can feel that."
Interesting is that though. So he knew he was doing it.
Yeah.
But he couldn't do anything about it, even though he knew he was doing it until he saw it.
He needed the video evidence, and he
visual self-awareness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Funny, I did a master's in sports coaching during COVID. I'd done all the sort of all these sort of practical things, and I just wanted. I was part of British Triathlon's high performance coach program, and at the end of that, there were so many more answers or questions I wanted answered. And I went up to the lead and I said, "Well, there's nothing else I can do with British Triathlon. How can I learn more about coaching and things like that?" And he suddenly said to me, "Well," he said, "if you want to," he said, "a master would be really good." So anyway, I went and did this master's, and oh gosh, now I've gone off on a tangent. I usually do this and then I forget what I was going to say. And it was really interesting because with that master, with the masters and learning about the different coaching styles and techniques and things like that. I can't remember what
it was about. Darren said about him knowing what he needed to do, but he didn't do it.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. And I was going to. Oh yeah, there was a little story. Antidote. Oh, I forgot. It's gone. Old age.
Come back. Come back.
It's old age for me. It'll come back. But it. Yes, what he knew. Oh yes, sorry. I got it now. During the Masters, I had to go and interview other coaches of different sports. And one of the things I learned was I went to, well, you'll know him, a guy called Andrew Griffiths, tennis Hereford.
Yeah.
He's a level 3, or could even be a level 4 tennis coach.
Yeah, he's quite high there.
Right high up. And we went there and he said, okay, Ed, this is quite interesting. What we're going to do, he said, I've got some juniors here. We're learning about the smash, the tennis smash. And he had some iPads and they all turned up and he said, right then, and I can't remember who the tennis player was, but it was very current. They all knew the tennis player, and obviously, you know, that was their hero. So he said, "Look, go and have a look at this video of the tennis of this particular technique, the tennis smash, and then just go off in pairs and go and practice it. And when you and if you suddenly think that you're not doing it right, go back and look and watch the video again." It's been amazing that no coaching was done really. It was just literally pointing the people at a video of someone who's doing the technique correctly, and then just going initially to practice it. And they're amazing. They all were ending up by smashing really well. And then he would go in and he would start then, just because obviously, likewise, everyone's different. Everyone's got different body shapes, and he then started to do just a bit of instructional coaching. And I find that in the endless pool is so good. It's because quite often I get people to swim, and I say to them, rotation is one really good thing. When you rotate, you really need to. You got to see your hips sort of coming almost up to the surface every time to rotate. And I'll say to people, "Do you think you're rotating?" "Yes, Ed, I really was rotating." I said, "But look, here's the video of you rotating." "Ooh, my hips aren't really moving, are they, Ed?" I said, "No, I'm a bit flat in the water." "Exactly. This is what rotation should be like." And I show them what someone who's rotating well. They then go back and swim, and lo and behold, they start rotating. And I'm very much a visual learner. I can look at a video and especially with the endless pool, we've got mirrors. And I was in the pool this morning, for instance, and I was doing a hard threshold set, and my go-to default is, because I'm quite broad-shouldered, is to just go straight back and use pure force to do it. But I have a visual in me of this particular person who swims, and I've got a video of them from the front. And you can see how they rotate, boom, boom, boom. So when I'm looking in the mirror, I remember it was getting hard in a set. I was looking in the mirror and I was thinking, no, I got to see myself, which is so good for instructional purposes, having a mirror there. I could actually see my shoulders going boom, but I knew my rotation was right. And in fact, the session ended really well for me. Whereas I think if I hadn't had that mirror, I would have struggled. I would have just gone and I thought, God, that was hard. And that's again technique for swimming.
Yeah.
You revert back to default, and especially men, we all think we use pure strength, and water always wins because it's so dense.
Absolutely.
Never.
Is it 800 times, something like that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Approximately, something like that. It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is.
So you know, so that is really good, and so people come to me really for exactly that. You know, they want to come. The endless pool is not great for drills and things, but what I say to people is you'll get to learn how to do them correctly. Once you go back to the pool, God, you'll find it so much easier. But it's that immediate feedback, video feedback, looking. I think it's so important.
Yeah.
The problem is you go back to your own environment, and you suddenly go back into bad technique.
Sure.
So a bit like I keep on saying to people, you don't need a video analysis every year. That would be ideal, but no. But you do need to have an MOT every year.
Yeah.
Just there was a chap You know him, Tim Barrow. I remember last year, I think it was. He came up, he rang me up, and he said, "Ed," he said, something is not quite right with my stroke, and he got into that endless pool, and he looked at himself in the mirror, and he suddenly said, I knew I was doing something wrong. And he corrected himself. Yeah. He could see what was happening. I can't remember what it was. It's something with the pool floor or something he was having problems with.
Right.
Yeah. But I
think humans are visual learners. Everyone learns from visual cues
I learned that years ago with the juniors, and I was trying to get them to swim correctly, and they would just look at me and go, "Yes, Ed," and they go off and not do anything different. And then suddenly I thought, I'll bring my iPad along and I'll show them an image. I'll show them a video of what should be done. And just like what Griff did with his tennis students, I showed them. I said, "Look, I just want you to enter the water like this. And I want you to have this nice bend at the elbow. Just look at this person and just copy them." And do you know something? I got more success in 10 minutes of doing that than most probably the previous 2 winters of them in the pool.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
God. For those people that haven't got the luxury of endless pools or can afford coaching or anything like that, what should they prioritise first then as a swimmer?
Oh goodness. Swimming, gosh. You don't need an endless pool. You don't need an endless pool. You don't have to go to an endless pool. You do need to find someone, a swimming teacher, to teach you the basics.
Yeah, but going back from that, if they can't even find that though, and they're self-coached, they're self-learning,
right?
They've only got a swimming pool they can turn up at once a week.
Okay. Well,
what are they prioritising?
They just need to be comfortable in the water and relax in the water.
Okay. Relax. I think that's the big
relax
word.
In the water. And
do you know it?
Do you know what I often say to people is you need to go in the water and you need to lie flat on the water, okay? Your head looking down, and just find your centre of gravity. Your centre of gravity is usually around the chest area, and you should be able to after a while, just be able to just get there and just lie flat in the water. Sure. With your legs up behind you. The amount of people that go there and their legs just go boom, and you've just got to do that. And it's just your body position in the water is so crucial. But honestly, body position is so key. The other thing I was really interested when you said you being in the water once a week. Okay. I have triathletes come here and they come to me and they say, because most triathletes hate swimming. Okay. That's their worst discipline. They're good runners or they're good cyclists. They haven't really swum much as a child. And they're not good at swimming, so they hate it.
Sure.
They want to go and do a sub, an hour and 15, let's say, Ironman swim. And yet at the moment, they're on about a 1 hour 40 or something. And I'm saying they'll only go for one swim a week. I said, you're not going to get improvement one swim a week. You've got to swim. I'm afraid if you want to see improvement, you've got to swim 3 days a week. Sure. If you want to see real improvement, you've got to swim 4 or 5.
So are you changing the priority a little bit? So are we going to prioritise going more regular or the body position that we talked about? Which one trumps then?
But
one or the other. Can't have two.
Right, okay. Body position, I think if you've got a bad body position, you can go 10 times a week. You ain't going to get any better. Yeah. You've got to get that body position right and then work on it. Yeah. But to improve, you've got to get that feel for the water. I remember listening to a podcast, Johnny Brownlee, the triathlete. He said that over Christmas he missed, I think he hadn't swum for 4 days, and he felt that he had that disconnect with the water, the feel for the water when he got back into the pool. I was talking to a time trialist. He was the same with the time trialist. He said that if he's not on a bike I think he was saying every day, or certainly every other day, he would feel a lack in performance. It's just that feel. And I know with my swimming is when I'm coming up to a competition or a long race and I'm swimming 4 days a week, maybe 4 or 5 days a week, that it's that feel for the water. That if you're only there once a week, you just don't get it.
No, I'd agree with you on that, to be fair.
Yeah.
I swim 3 times a week just for cross training, and if I do 2, that one session out, I feel that disconnect for the water. Yeah. Ed, I'm really fascinated in the fueling for these longer swims, because I obviously know, like, even for a full distance triathlon, you can, bulk up beforehand, and then when you get out of the pool or the sea or whatever, you can get in it. But 2 things, I'm interested in how you fuel during, I don't know, a 10 mile or whatever it was, 10K. I'm also interested in the other end of that. If you do need to go to the loo when you're swimming these longer distance, how does that work as well?
Okay. Fueling. And I think I'm still learning. It's, as you can imagine, it's bloody difficult if you're on a 10K. So a 10K swim I'm usually swimming around the 3K an hour. So I'm over in the water for over 3 hours. I have the same fueling strategy as I would do when I'm running. I'd need to have about 60 grams of carbs an hour.
Yeah.
So that's basically 2. I use Precision Fuel and Hydration. It's so simple, isn't it? They have the 260 grams.
So you're gelling up in the swim. During the swim. You're gelling up in the swim.
Yeah, but no, look, I'm not.
Logistically, then tell us how that.
You're
works.
right. Okay, if you're in a 10K swim, a lot of these there will be boats on the water. There's usually a lap, so it may be a 3K lap. So you'll have a boat and you can swim around to that boat and take whatever they've got on board.
Sure.
Whether it's water, they'll have jelly babies. I stuff gels in my trunks.
Really?
Yeah.
I do it for Ironman athletes at Wales. Sometimes stick a gel at their sleeves on their beach run, and they come out, pop a gel.
Yeah.
Off they go.
Yeah, but you're on land then, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Not doing swimming.
But with swimming,
I can't imagine it.
With swimming, again, when I do these events, I'm not at the pointy end. I know people who will go and they'll be swimming, and I don't even think they take it. Or maybe in a 10K race they may. I mean, they're so efficient. There's a guy called Andy Donaldson. It's on who did the Ocean 7. You see him how he takes in fuel when he's doing these races. He's doing front crawl. Someone will hand him a bottle with these marathon rules. Did you see that?
Yeah.
And literally in a stroke, he just does one back. He literally just flips over, takes a thing, throws the bottle away, and he's back swimming again.
Yeah, I've seen that.
See, my mind went to somebody with a water pistol.
Yeah. So what do I do? And of course he's saving time. He's saving seconds there. I mean, I will go and I do religiously take gels, because you got to, as we all know, you will start to you'll start to just hit the wall. So I normally take a gel every hour, or I normally take 60 grams every hour. And what I'll do is I'll either if the sea's really flat, I will just lie on my back and just pump the thing in. And if it's rough, I'll stop and tread water for a while, because I'm thinking treading water for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, just get that stuff in. Going to the toilet, I mean, I just go to the when I'm not one of these people who can go for a toilet on the bike. I don't know how anyone can do that in a long distance race. But I can do it if I'm treading water or something. I certainly can't do it when I'm swimming.
No.
And in Barbados, I got a bit worried because it was so hot. I was taking the gels. I wasn't taking any fluid, but I didn't want to stop, because to get to the boat, you had to go about 50 meters off the course to get to the boat, and then come back in again. And I didn't, and I faded. I faded there a bit because I didn't get enough I didn't get enough fluid inside me.
Yeah.
It's blimmin' hot. especially I got, well, God knows with you guys with hair, I got no hair, but I had obviously a swim hat on, and the sun was beating down. It was quite warm.
Yeah,
But I'm still learning with that. With nutrition.
And the gels are good. I just imagine that rotation and the buoyancy and the bouncing around. The gels sit well on your stomach. They don't.
Yeah, that doesn't really worry me. No.
Be more. I was chatting to a lady at Homer who does endurance swimming, and she used the precision, but she uses the chews instead. Again, I think it's personal digestion, isn't it?
Yeah, but trying to chew when you're swimming.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Yeah.
I guess if she's treading water, but yeah, it's one of those.
Oh, she's treading water. Yeah.
And then swallowing that and digesting that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there are boats normally in supporting these longer distance ones.
Definitely, yeah. And these or if you're doing an unsupported, if you're doing a very long race, you will have a support boat with you.
Yeah.
And that support boat will be handing you. It depends whether you're doing it under marathon rules, because there's certain really strict rules that you can't touch the boat if you're doing some of these long.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
So then they have big like fishing rod things with big poles with whatever chews on. I think if I had a support boat, I think I'd most probably use chews.
Yeah. Okay,
I'm actually doing an event this year, which is what's known as a swim run event. It's the archipelago, the Scilly archipelago. So you're swimming and you're running around the island, swimming between islands, running around the islands. It's going to take about 7.5 to 8.5 hours. Nice. 8 Ks of swimming, roughly 30 Ks of running. I'm doing it solo, and it's unsupported. And I got to have a float being a solo runner, solo competitor. Yeah. And I'm thinking of putting, in these tow floats, I've got my tow float, you can actually, chuck some stuff in. So I'm thinking of putting the day's worth of nutrition, not the bottles of water, because I would assume that's going to be water stations, but I don't particularly like doing events when you don't know what their nutrition is.
Knowing what you've got.
So I'm going to put my day's worth of nutrition in the tow float.
And you wouldn't just use the running segments to do the fueling on that then?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I'm going to self-supported all the way around.
Oh, I see.
So I'm going to have to have the nutrition on me. So, and I suddenly thought, how am I going to do that? I really don't want to put 7.5 hours worth of nutrition in my wetsuit. You could get chaffed or God knows what else.
Yeah.
But I suddenly thought, the tow float, I could actually chuck it all in the tow float.
Nice.
It's not going to take much. It wouldn't be much weight there.
Ed, is there a myth in swimming that you would like to bust and put into room? Was it room what? 101 they used to call it, didn't they? Never used to watch that program? No? God.
Never seen that one.
My age now.
A myth in swimming.
Like a drill you think people relate to or use that you think it should not be used or anything like that?
Let's think. I think swimming, funny enough, there's a lot of gadgets going out there at the moment, and a lot of them are sort of they're inventing the wonder tool. I think at the end of the day, you've got to. At the end of the day, it's all down to the tech. Do you know the one myth I think with swimming is that you can't a particular body type. You can't. There's no swimmer. You can't look at a person and say, "Are you a good swimmer or not?" And that's happened a couple of times to me. There was one time in a silly swim, there was this particular male swimmer who, if you saw him in a street, you would have thought he's the most unfit person. And he was there in a pair of budgie smugglers. We should have really realised then that. But he was standing around in his budgie smugglers, looking really pretty unfit. And I remember after the second swim, I said to a couple of people, I said who were with me, and we noticed this person. I said, where's he? Is he still about to come in? And someone turned around and said, oh no, he was the first in the last 2 swims.
Wow.
He is the most amazing swimmer.
Yeah.
So that goes back to then it's got to be all technique.
All
isn't
technique.
Yeah,
In Barbados, there was this lady that almost had to be carried to the water because she found it was struggling to walk on land because of her size.
Yeah.
And I suddenly I was swimming and I suddenly saw that felt something coming up and I looked behind me and there she was, and she had no problem with the buoyancy.
Yeah.
But oh my God.
She's gliding through the
she's
water,
gliding.
yeah.
She was like she's like a fish.
I think that answers the question, doesn't it? The a myth to
Yeah.
debug there is that no shape size. And again, it's that don't judge the book by its cover,
You're
isn't it?
so right. And also the person I had a number of people, men come in when they're absolutely, they're ripped.
Yeah.
Usually military or rugby players, and they get in the pool and they sink.
I'm not going to say their names, but we have someone on quite recently, Jack Tillett, and he's been on the podcast recently. But Jack said he is absolutely ripped. He's so fit. He's powerful. He got into swimming half a length.
But he talked about how that humbled him in that sense.
Absolutely,
and you talk about that. They come along, they think they're going to be good at it, and then it's like, oh crap, I've got to learn this now.
But it humbled him. Now he's getting a technique, right? And now he's starting to make progress. And now he's so it's all about technique. But it's like, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything we haven't talked about with Ed that we think we should? Anything you want to chuck in now? I think we can't.
No, I think I think swimming is just such a great. I think swimming for certainly older people who may have been runners or cyclists, early on in life, and they got injuries and things like that. It's a non-impact sport. It's a really good. I mean, I suffer, having been a sheep farmer all my life. I suffer from very bad lower back issues. Yeah. And I find, and my physio says to me, he said, actually, because I'm notoriously bad at doing mobility, I tell all my athletes they need to do mobility. And as my partner says to me, she says, Ed, I hear you telling all your athletes to do your strength and mobility. She said, when did I last see you going to the gym? However, my physio said to me, she said, actually, when you're swimming, because I find when I'm swimming, I really try and stretch out. And actually, that is one of the things maybe is a nice little cue for people. If you're finding that you're not getting that, your legs are sinking, it's invariably because your core isn't great. And if you really, really stretch out in the swimming pool and make yourself as long as possible, you automatically engage the core, squeeze your butt cheeks together, and your legs come up. Yeah. And my physio is saying to me, actually, because you do quite a bit of swimming, you are automatically getting that quite a bit of mobility in the with the rotation in the hips, stretching out. It's stretching out your lower back, which is my problem.
Yeah. I find that massively. If I've carrying a niggle and I get in the pool, when I come out of it, it's not gone, but it's definitely improved. And that's why 3 times a week is a non-negotiable for me. Keep me going, basically. And I believe what you're saying about that stretching out and engaging the core. Yeah. And I found shoulder definition come quite quickly, actually, when I upped it to 3 times a week. Again, you're using all of your body in most cases, aren't you?
Yeah. And I think also regarding muscles and things like that, if you are come out of a swim session and you've got sore rotator cuffs and your shoulders are all sore here, you possibly need to think about whether you're doing the technique correct. If you're coming out the pool and you feel as if your lats have worked, you know that you're getting, because what we're trying to do is we use these more smaller intricate muscles here as well. However, to get the main force, we're sort of using a bit the pec, but also it's these lats here, big strong muscles. And I think Kat Matthews, I can always remember her on a podcast, said that she knows when she finishes a swim session and that her technique has been good is because her lats are tired.
Yeah. Awesome, Ed. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that wraps it up for us.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, guys.
I really enjoyed having you on, mate. It opens up the world of swimming there. We could go on all day about it, I'm sure. About technique and swimming.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Cheers,
thank you.
Pleasure. Darren, that was fantastic, wasn't it? What a guy Ed is.
He's a great bloke. I've worked with Ed for many years now. We've done a triathlon training camp. We never even mentioned that during the podcast. We go over to Lanzarote every year. Ed kind of takes coaching on the swim there and kind of leads that. But yeah, he's very knowledgeable, very passionate in swimming, and he's a great swimmer as well.
Yeah, I think his knowledge comes from time served, and that's not just necessarily through coaching, but it's swimming himself. And we talk about when a good coach has been through the trenches. You know, when I started asking him about his nutrition or how long distance swimmers do get their nutrition, and he talked about himself, didn't he? And he says, but what I found was really nice was that I'm still learning.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a great little memo for everybody. Every day's a school day, isn't it?
Yeah, you're always learning, never stop learning. And anybody says they've learned everything it's lie, isn't it? Because we always learn. We've always got information we could take on. But no, the information that Ed kind of has give out there, I think I said it in the podcast, we could go on all day about technique because it's a never-ending story. It really is.
Do you know though, Darren, I won't lie, I thought, how would we fill an hour about swimming? But I've learned a lot today.
Yeah, absolutely. Me and Ed, honestly, we could be here for weeks recording this. And,
incredibly technical, isn't it?
I mean, we didn't really get into his swim smooth career during it, but I mean, they're a big part of Ed's kind of future as well. So yeah, it's good.
No, that was great. Guys, if you enjoyed that, please don't forget to like, subscribe and leave us a comment. And if you'd like to be on the podcast and you've got an interesting story, then please let us know and we'd love to get you on.
Yeah, and don't forget, be smarter than yesterday.